Here is the latest Higher Summits forecast brought to you by our friends at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Weather above treeline in the White Mountains is often wildly different than at our trailheads. Before you hike, check the Higher Summits forecast at mountwashington.org. Weather observers working at the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory write this elevation-based forecast every morning and afternoon. Search and rescue teams, avalanche experts, and backcountry guides all rely on the Higher Summits forecast to anticipate weather conditions above treeline. You should too. Go to mountwashington.org or text forecast to 603-356-2137. And here's your forecast for Friday, May 24th and Saturday, May 25th. Friday, mostly in the clear, trending towards mostly in the clouds under partly sunny skies. Slight chance of rain showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon, with a high falling to the mid-30s. Winds will be west shifting northwest at 45 to 65 miles per hour, with gusts up to 80 miles per hour, decreasing to 35 to 50 miles per hour. And the wind chill will be a cozy 15 to 25 above. Friday night in the clouds, trending towards in the clear under mostly clear skies with a low in the 30s, and wind chill will be 20 above. Saturday, in the clear under partly sunny skies with a high in the lower 40s. Winds will be northwest at 30 to 45 miles per hour with gusts up to 55 miles per hour. And the wind chill will be rising to 25 to 35 above. So it looks like a really nice weekend. Enjoy your Memorial Day, and beware there may be some hazy skies from the wildfires. Who knew?
Broadcasting from the Woodpeckers Studio in the great state of New Hampshire, welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Here are your hosts, Mike and Stump.
Stomp. So let's do this live.
Literally, let's do it live.
Do it live. So I'm cracking a beer here. Stomp. It is toasty outside. How are you holding up?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, summer arrived really quick and fast. I am dying. The studio's got to be at least 90 degrees right now. So we have no AC in this place, just fans.
Do you
we rely on those mountain breezes to cool us off?
You don't get those and I know it's a short period where it gets crazy hot, but do you put those window units in? At least one of those things will cool the place down nicely.
Oh yeah, we have one of those. Have yet to put it up. Okay. And a few other just standalone fans, but boy is it hot today.
Yeah, I mean,
and we're waiting for the pool to open.
Oh, that's true. I'm not really worried about you and Mrs. Stomp. I'm worried about the equipment. I don't want it to overheat.
True. Yeah, hopefully not.
Right.
That would suck.
All right. Well, it's so for the listeners, I think everyone's aware at this point we've got a nice heat wave going here. So I think that should hopefully knock out a lot of the remaining monorail up on some of these higher summits, and then hopefully it'll retain its warmth into the weekend. I just took a look. Yesterday, it looked like it was going to get a little bit of rain, and now I looked just a little while ago, and it looks like from a weather perspective, it's going to be pretty warm. I haven't looked at the higher summit forecast. I know you're going to record that, but what's it looking like so far?
Oh yeah, there's nothing around here. Weather-wise, I'm not sure. I think it may get a little damp tomorrow, but nothing major. I was out a couple days ago. There's not much at all for snow. So I think we're good. I think we're clear.
Very good. Very good. All right. Yeah. So welcome to episode 153 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. This week we are joined for a segment by Carey Kish. Carey is a longtime multi-sport adventurer, journalist, and photographer. He's a registered Maine guide and a founding member of the Maine Outdoor Adventure Club. He's been on countless hiking, backpacking, and whitewater rafting trips throughout Maine, and he's an avid hiker, having done the Appalachian Trail twice, and then he's also completed the PCT, and we're catching up with him as he is about 700 miles into the Pacific Crest Trail, so it's a really interesting discussion. Carey is the writer of the Maine Mountain Guide, and he also has a new book that talks about beer and hiking, so we're going to talk all about that, and we'll include all the links so that you can buy that stuff in the show notes. And I think that his book or all of his books are definitely worth checking out. So the beer book is called Beer Hiking New England, The Tastiest Way, so we'll do a deep dive on that. Plus, we've got, we're going to give you a heads up on what's going on with Mount Carrigain. We've got to give an update on a rabid fox that Stomp has been keeping an eye on. We've got Memorial Day weekend, so Stomp's going to talk a little bit about stuff to do. And then we've got a listener correction. I screwed up. I gave false misinformation, and I got to be corrected here, so Stomp is excited about that. We're going to talk about Hoka ones. And then we've got some recent search and rescue news. We're going to learn what a hoodoo is. We are going to also catch up on some recent search and rescue news. And then there's some interesting news coming out about the Connecticut River Valley killer cold case. There was some police activity and a search going on. So we'll talk a little bit about the Connecticut River Valley killer, along with some rescues on Arethusa Falls, Fish and Jimmy, Mount Monadnock, and Falling Waters. So summer is here, Stomp. We got a lot of local rescues. So I'm Mike.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Stomp. Let's get started.
So I apologize for that long-winded opening. I actually didn't write this one down. I just winged it.
Yeah, that was a long one. Impressive. You took one breath and just did it.
But it sucks because I usually write down a nice, coherent intro, and I cut and paste it in the show notes. So I'm going to have to do it no matter what. So
that was coherent.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
This is Ben Pease from Hiking Buddies. We are a 501c3 nonprofit committed to reducing avoidable tragedies through education, impactful projects, and fostering a community of support. You can find out more at hikingbuddies.org. We wanted to say thank you to those who have supported our mission, and most importantly, say thanks to those who speak up, who ask questions, and who are willing to provide guidance and assistance on the trails when needed. You embody what it means to be a hiking buddy. And now, for all my newer hikers out there, here's this episode's Hiking Buddies Quick Tip.
While eating and foraging mushrooms and other plant life can be popular, there are many unsafe lookalikes and the potential for sickness. Getting sick is never good, but getting sick on a multi-day backpacking trip is very bad news. Pack your food, leave the plant life, and leave no trace.
All right, so starting off the show, Stomp, we've got a breaking news. This isn't so much a search and rescue hiking related incident, but the Lakes Region Emergency Alerts put out an update about an incident that went down. It looks like it was so this would have been on, let me see here.
19th.
The 19th, so that's Sunday morning at 11:45 in the morning.
Yeah. This is really unusual.
Yeah,
it's a rescue.
Yeah, you want to talk about it?
Well, I mean, you don't see this too often, but it's an unusual incident that was posted here at the Lakes Region, New Hampshire emergency page. And apparently a person was trapped.
In a box.
Pretty scary.
Yep.
Pretty scary, yeah. In a box. Yep. And it was a female magician.
Yeah. Which I think, when I hear someone's getting caught in a box, there's two things that come to mind. One is like a kid that's playing in like a toy box, and then the other is a magician that like is a magic trick went wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So this seems as though it's a magician that got stuck in a box, and we don't know what kind of box it is. I'd like to know. Was it wooden? Was it like a safe?
I feel like there's only one type of box for magicians, though, Stomp. It's like they always do the same thing where they get inside the box and then somebody will be Here's the thing is like, if she's stuck in the box, what's the person outside the box doing the trick doing?
Oh, what if she's solo? What if she's just a solo performer?
Oh, so she's doing that thing where she's standing up and then she's in the box and then
it just disappears.
And then she walks out on the stage the other way.
Yeah, possibly.
How do you think that trick happens? I feel like there's got to be like a trap door under the stage or something, right?
Absolutely. Do you remember the Cabot Cinema in Beverly?
No.
Le Grand David?
No.
There was that world famous actually, magic show. It's since been sold. It's at the Larkham Theater. But as a kid, I saw that performance many times, and you could actually see the trap door open, and they would go through, because sometimes we'd set up higher in the balcony so you could have that eagle eye view onto the stage, and you could actually see the trick. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, my only inside info so I used to work at Prince Restaurant in Saugus, and as a matter of fact, I got a story to follow this. And then they had this guy Calvin the Clown. I don't know if you remember him, but
I remember Calvin.
Yeah, Calvin the Clown. So he did. His name was Tone. His real name was Tone. He was a nice guy, but it was kind of funny because he was like it was similar to The Simpsons where he would like swear in the kitchen and stuff. And it was like, whoa, the kid's clown guy is swearing and talking like badly. And it was like shocking for me. I was a 15-year-old kid, but he used to pull a bird out of his hat, and he literally would just like stuff he would show the hat. And so he would start the show and he would do like 10 minutes worth of stuff. And then he would like take his hat off and then release the bird somehow, and the bird would fly up, and then I think somebody like his assistant was in charge of getting the bird, and it was like a little canary bird. But what he would do is he actually would show us is that he would stuff the bird inside like a fabric flap in his hat, and then I guess when it was time to release the bird, he would like just pull the flap and the bird would release. But he would be walking around for 10 minutes with the bird shoved into like a little section of the top of his hat. I'm like, I feel like that's animal
cruel.
Yeah, it sounds cruel, but the bird seemed fine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If not, maybe a little cozy.
Yeah.
Maybe he thought it was cozy.
I don't know. But yeah, I find magicians interesting. Like my parents had I'm getting off on a tangent here, but my parents had like a party at Prince. Like this is like within the last 6 months or so. My father's like, it was like his 80th birthday. He put together a family reunion, and we're all older. Like, I mean, some of us have younger kids, but like there was like maybe 2 or 3 younger kids. But for whatever reason, my mom and dad decided that they were going to hire a balloon artist. So we had like, it was very weird. It was like a family reunion. So a lot of us hadn't seen each other in a long time. And then we're at a restaurant, and then we've got a balloon artist that's doing like magic tricks and a comedy show. But the funny thing is my mom and my dad, like they're both worried that the other one's going to screw it up. So like my dad booked a balloon artist magician.
Okay.
And then my mom went on the same website and booked another balloon artist magician at the same place at the same time. So the two balloon artist magicians show up, and they must have known each other because it was like tense. They're like arguing over who's going to stay and who's not because they know they got double booked and everything. So it was kind of like and then like no one was going up to get like balloons. So I just had to go up, and I was like, can I have a sword, please? So
that's so weird.
It was pathetic. It was like, so it was so fun, but my kids were like, this is so weird that it's funny. So
yeah, whatever.
Anyway.
So one of them pop off?
Yeah, one of them popped off. So yeah, and it was kind of sad. Like the one that like decided that he was going to leave. It was like, how many balloon magicians are there in Eastern Massachusetts? Like, it's only got to be 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
anyway, but that's showbiz stomp.
I wonder if COVID killed in-house magicians. The ones that you bring to your home. I bet it destroyed that whole career.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be a tough career. It's like there's usually only like one guy that's the famous magician.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
So.
Yeah. No question about it.
All right. Anyway, we went way off on a tangent here, Stomp, about magicians. But anyway, so there's no update on the trap magician in New Hampshire other than like they're free and we have no other details. But if anybody knows any details about it, it was in Meredith, New Hampshire. So our Meredith listeners, like, get the scoop, find out what's going on there. All right, so now moving on, we've got, we touched on this a little bit the last week or two, but Mount Carrigain, so Sawyer River is not opening, and it's not, based on the chatter I'm seeing online, like, it is not opening this year at all. So if you're gonna be hiking Carrigain, you're talking a minimum 14-mile round trip hike if you do the traditional route where you connect Sawyer River to Signal Ridge. So that's a long day. I mean, granted, a lot of it's in the beginning is pretty flat, and even Signal Ridge is a pretty gradual climb. But I wanted to just, I guess, maybe get your take on the alternative routes, because if you're going to hike 14, 15 miles, like there's 2 alternative routes that are 18 and 20 miles that maybe it's worth considering.
Yeah. So what are the options? Let's see. You could take the long ass route from Nancy Pond and loop your way around through Carrigain Notch.
Correct. And that's actually not even the longest option. So that's the second shortest option is Nancy Pond to Carrigain Notch to Desolation. And that's 18 miles out and back.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's a hell of a jaunt.
Yeah. The other one, and I suppose you could sort of tag on, I think you could do Ethan Pond to Shoal Pond, and then to Carrigain Notch and Desolation, and that's 20 miles. So, I mean, I feel like both of these are like either super long day hikes or, backpacking trips. But it's also, like I said, like you got a 14-mile hike, just the traditional route. So your mind should start opening up a little bit and saying like, all right, well, maybe I should consider going another route that's a little less traveled. Right.
Yeah. How about through Hancock, from the Hancocks in?
That's a long way in. So I think from the Hancock trailhead until you get to Signal Ridge, I think that's about 7 or 8 miles. Yeah. So that's not a day hike. I mean, you could do like a super long hike where you start in Hancock and then end up in Nancy or Ethan Pond or something. If you want to do that, that's another backpacking trip, I think.
So are they discouraging people from using the road for hiking?
I don't think so. Okay. I mean, somebody posted pictures of the washout, and there is one bad section where it's like the road's basically cut in half or even more than half.
Yeah.
The thing I don't know too is like what I would potentially do is, especially like if you're a weekend warrior and you're trying to get your 4,000 footer, like getting there on a Friday night or a Saturday night and then hiking in at like 5, 6 o'clock and then setting up camp at the parking lot right outside of Signal Ridge. Like, I don't know what the rules are there, but like that to me would be another option, is like take all your overnight stuff and then just leave it there and then hike up Signal Ridge.
Yep. I mean, definitely this may provoke some more backpacking rather than day hiking for sure. Hammocking, whatever.
Yeah. But Carrigain now becomes and again, it's an extra 4 miles and it's a road walk, but it does become like the difference between a 10-mile hike and a 14-mile hike is significant. Having just done Garfield from the actual trailhead, I was like talking to my daughter about how like, oh yeah, this road hike is tough in the winter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a bummer. I got to get out to the Captain this summer. So
yeah, it's calling you. It's calling you. So, All right, Stomp. So, let us know, if you're doing Carrigain and you're going to do it from Ethan Pond or Nancy Pond, definitely tag us as a notable hike. And, I haven't been in either one of those areas, so that's sort of on my mind. I'm kind of thinking with my daughter, she's got to get it. Like maybe we'll go that way.
Well, sounds good.
All right. So next up, Stomp, we've got a listener sent us in some 411 info on the Dry River. So this listener is Izzy Rizzatano, a nice Irish man.
Completely opposite.
Rizzatano.
Yeah. Izzy, I believe, hikes occasionally with Liz Faye and Dave.
Oh, okay.
So she is associated with them.
Oh, it's a she. Got it.
She sends along some nice day trip reports from her adventures in the Dry River because, just as a follow-up, that place is so intense and there's a lot of information in there. We can't cover it all now, and I think we did a fairly good job talking about it last time. So it's just a little bit of extra info for you from Izzy. And Izzy, thank you very much for sending that along for us.
Is there anything else you want to highlight about it, Stomp?
Not really. No. Nope. It's just, she does go into greater detail about the particular trails, which we couldn't do since we haven't been there. So.
All right. Yeah. So I'll link her blog. So her blog is called Where's Izzy? And she's got a bunch of trip reports here and stuff. So it sounds pretty good. She's a nice photographer. I'll give her that. So definitely worth checking out and adding this to your list of White Mountain bloggers.
That's right.
All right, Stomp. So now we've got Memorial Day here. This is the unofficial start of summer. You were nice enough to go ahead and link some events that are from New Hampshire Magazine here. So we can run these through. There's a bunch of Memorial Day parades and celebrations. So Rye, New Hampshire, which is in my neck of the woods, you can take a Memorial Day historic trolley tour.
Sounds cool.
Yep. Then you got Hampton Beach, also by my neck of the woods. They've got fireworks popping off on May 26th. And Meredith, New Hampshire has a 3-day celebration for their Craft Day festival. So that's pretty cool. And then Jackson has a duck race and a music festival on May 26th. Portsmouth, Portsmouth has a Cisco Brewers 5K race. And then, this sounds good, Stomp. In your neck of the woods, Waterville Valley has their 34th annual Chowder Fest.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Have you gone to one before?
I have not, but it sounds fantastic. They're also doing a similar topic. They're doing a fishing derby for kids. I believe it's this coming Saturday. So,
those are always
fun. Yeah, the Chowder Fest.
Yeah, that sounds tantalizing. And then they also put in a plug for some old standard favorites, Stomp. We got the Polar Caves, we got the Lost River Gorge and Boulder Caves, the Mount Washington Auto Road, and then America's Stonehenge in Salem, New Hampshire.
Awesome. Yep, the unofficial start.
Yeah, essentially, like from a weather perspective, like usually like the last month of spring is summer like. Although I will say the issue you're going to deal with is there's going to be a lot of bugs and mosquitoes out there.
That's a really interesting question. I've yet to see a mosquito this year. I don't know what's going on with the mosquitoes, but they are not present. You think a recent frost might have killed them off?
I don't know. I had some bug activity when we were on Garfield that I'll talk about, but it was mostly down low by the way. I mean, maybe you're not hiking in enough like wet areas, Stomp.
Yeah, maybe not. I'm not sure, but the black flies are certainly out, but nada on the mosquitoes, which is a blessing.
Cool. And then, Stomp, you were kind enough to pull the current Winnipesaukee lake temperature, which is 55 degrees. I suspect after today, that's going to warm up pretty quickly.
Right. Isn't the threshold about 60 for safety that they recommend? I think it's somewhere around there.
I don't know. My threshold is about 80 degrees before I like to go swimming.
Good luck. I think the high average in August for the lake is about 64.
Yeah. Although there's something about being on the lake, Sebago, they have, and again, I don't go to Winnipesaukee too much, but Sebago has these like sandbar areas where the water's pretty shallow, so it's not deeper than like 3 or 4 feet. So even if and that's a deep lake, so even if like the middle of the lake is cool, the sandbar areas are nice and warm. The water is pretty good there, so I like to stick to that.
Bet. Yeah, for sure.
So
cool.
And then shout out to you, Stomp and Mrs. Stomp. It's 8 years for the Stomps living in New Hampshire. So,
Yep.
congratulations. It seems like yesterday you guys moved up here.
Doesn't it? Yeah. So every Memorial Day weekend, we try to get out and do some nice hiking, and we plan to do a surprise hike we'll talk about next week, this Friday. But yeah, 8 years, man. It's wild. Time flies.
Crazy. I remember like yesterday, me and you catching up and running the hills of Lowell to prepare for Mount Washington.
Which was fantastic, by the way. I think about that a lot. That area was really good for training.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Lowell is nice, that side of town. So
Right.
Awesome.
So that's cool. 8 years.
Very good. And then did you say that, so you've got a special hike planned, you're going to report back, and then is Nobby joining you? Is that what's going on?
No, it's actually really funny. I'll reveal all this next week because Mrs. Stomp is really excited about it and she wants to keep it top secret. But we did some 411 reconnaissance on it, and the only thing that popped up about it was a Nobby video, which is unbelievable.
Oh, got it. Okay. Got it, yeah. And just, I mean, selfishly, Stomp, for the listeners, so we've talked about, our friend Mark Lindeberg, Nobby Hikes, is his YouTube channel and Instagram. You can check him out. He's been on the show and we hike with him a fair amount. And I just personally wanted to extend my condolences to him. He's lost both of his parents recently and, in quick succession. And it's always hard. And I think about that a lot. A lot of people our age, their parents are getting up there and everything. So, Mark, if you're listening, I just wanted to extend our condolences to you and your family. And let's get out and hike and hopefully, better days ahead.
Yeah, condolences, Mark.
Yep. All right. Now moving on to a listener correction. So I screwed up, Stomp. So I need to be corrected. And I didn't know we did a news story about this Miracle Springs, which is in like California. And lo and behold, like who knew we got a listener that like lives out there. I figured I could lie and be safe, but I don't know. You want to explain the correction?
Yeah. So if you remember back, we covered the Miracle Hot Springs controversy. They closed this place indefinitely because apparently a couple people died recently, and this is in California's Sequoia National Forest, and apparently the latest body was discovered February 17th, and you can check out the story. But we did get a message from a listener who wanted to just add some insight into this, and it's listener Pat, who writes, "The springs are in my neighborhood. It's not known how the two people died. Best guess is they passed out while hot tubbing alone. There's no acid involved, Mike." Miracle is not an official hot springs maintained or permitted by the Forest Service. It's maintained by Hot Springs Angels. So there you go. That's pretty interesting.
That's good. I screwed up. I admit it. I just assumed that someone gets melted by acid when they die in a hot spring. I didn't know. And also, Pat, if you're living over by Sequoia, where's my invite? I want to come visit you.
Yeah.
You can come show me those things.
I got you in person.
Yeah, I need to come investigate.
I mean, it says on the Newsweek article that the hot springs are in California's Sequoia National Forest. So you would just assume that there was some federal presence there, but apparently not.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And and I guess given the fact that like I just assumed that these were like acidic, like dangerous hot springs, but now it makes sense why the locals would be upset that they're closing it down, because who knows what went on with these people. They could have been drinking, they could have been doing drugs, they could have just had a heart attack, and it has nothing to do with the the overall safety of the spring. So to try to shut that down, to me it's just like over, this safetyism sometimes gets to be a little out of control.
Whew. Sorry, you see me shake my head?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll talk about it. I'm drinking a sour ale, and it's like really sour.
Oh boy!
Holy moly!
Anyway, well, I appreciate listener Pat. I want to more, send us more info about like your situation, because I might want to come out and visit you and tour around there. Sounds like an awesome place. You can correct me on the trail.
Yeah, take them to the springs for a dip. Yeah.
yeah. Let's go. We'll go check out these hot tubs. So.
All right. Too funny.
Next up, we're going to talk about 2 grizzly bears. So we are not talking about man and bear. We're just talking about bear. 2 grizzlies.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, geez. This is so. My
it's a
friend
Massachusetts guy.
Yeah, my friend Tom is trying to get us to go out here. So this is man survives surprise attack by 2 grizzlies at Grand Teton National Park. I'm not going to this.
Right.
Forget it.
Hell no. No. Yeah, they're moving in.
Yeah.
They're taking up shop and moving in and just chomping on people.
Yeah. Can I tell you too, Stomp, by the way, so this guy's from Massachusetts. Massachusetts people are everywhere. Because the first people we met when me and my friend Tom went to go hike out in Yosemite was 3 massholes. They come walking through and we're talking to them. And then when I was in Iceland, I met people from New Hampshire, but I think they said they were originally from Massachusetts. So you can't escape us.
Yeah, I guess not, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe they're all trying to escape Mass.
I would think so. The taxes here, it's crazy. So anyway, Massachusetts survived a surprise attack by 2 grizzlies.
That's surprising.
Sunday. 2. So,
we need him in.
Yeah. This guy's got. Hopefully, he listens to our show. So, 35-year-old man. He has not been identified. He was in stable condition. He had a surprise encounter. I mean, is anybody expecting to encounter grizzlies?
After all the stories lately, I would think you would have to start being cautious.
Yeah, I guess. But so surprise encounter with 2 grizzlies in the Signal Mountain area of Grand Teton Park Sunday afternoon, according to the Cowboy State Daily.
My favorite.
Yep, your favorite. One of the bears attacked the victim, inflicting serious injuries. Rangers and search and rescue personnel responded to the scene to provide medical care, and they were able to airlift the patient via helicopter to an awaiting ambulance where he was transported to the hospital. So grizzlies are typically territorial and solitary animals. It's unclear why the 2 were together at the time. Imagine this guy just, dumb luck stumbled upon 2 grizzly bears fighting over territory or something.
Yeah, possible. If you go to the very end of the article, read the last paragraph. It's actually really interesting. There's one in here. It talks about prior events with grizzlies. In 2007, there was one, but it mentions one in 2022. Check this out. A black bear in Teton pushed a camper out of a hammock. Ooh, now that would be pretty terrifing.
Oh my God. The bear looks at somebody in a hammock.
Like a hot dog.
That's a taco.
Yeah.
A hot dog.
Absolutely.
That would be terrifying. So
yikes.
But anyway, so glad to hear that the guy is recovering. That's got to be scary. Scary. So good for him.
Yeah.
Are you ready for Slasher's Beer Review?
All right, Stomp, moving on to gear review. So you want to talk about Hoka 11 Kaha GTX?
Yes, I inherited a pair of Hokas, and I was always very skeptical about them, and I do have some comments that I'd like to share. This is the Kaha GTX. They're a nice Hoka black full Gore-Tex boot, and after wearing them for a month or 2, I would solidly put them in the day hiker category. I would not dare venture any further into backpacking or technical terrain, that type of thing. They're just not, I guess, sturdy enough. They're very flexible. There are the soft uppers that cover your ankles. They float. So I found that the wide sole was just moving under my sole left to right. And it was super annoying, and they fit perfect. But when you put them under stress, they were just way too flexible. Other than that, I think they're great. For traction, if you're just walking straight, not on a side slope. On side slopes, they're not great. But if you're just walking straight up an ascent, the traction was absolutely top-notch, 5 stars. Descending, 4 stars, because if it was just slightly wet, it would slip a little bit. So, but Hoka's are not bad. If you have problems with your ankles, they have such a wide heel counter. The heel counter itself juts out from either side of your heel by about half an inch. So the support, if you do roll, is tremendous. So there you go. The Kaha GTX by Hoka. Not bad.
Well, Hoka's doing pretty well. I guess apparently, and I didn't know this, Stomp, and I'm always, excuse me, listeners, too, by the way, I'm still kind of sick. My illness has turned into a persistent cough, so I apologize ahead of time. But I didn't know this, Stomp, but Hoka is owned by a company called Deckers Outdoor. And they were mostly well known for Uggs boots. Do you remember those Uggs boots that the kids all wore? The girls all wore them in winter.
Yep. Super flimsy.
Yeah. So their market cap has swelled to like $23 billion.
Wow.
On the back of Hoka running shoes. So there's like an article that talks about how Under Armour has struggled. So Under Armour's market cap stands at $2.9 billion, whereas Lululemon or Lululemon is at like $43 billion, and then Nike's at $138 billion. But this Deckers Outdoors company is growing significantly, and like the stock price is popping pretty well. So definitely the Hoka brand is owned by like a larger company for sure.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So I found that interesting here.
Those are some big numbers, man.
Big numbers.
Yeah.
I wish I had that market cap, Stomp.
No kidding. Billions.
We all know that hiking a mountain can be hard at times. So here's a corny dad joke to help you get over it. Ba-dum-bum.
Yes, billions. All right, Stomp. Now is the part of the show where I read a dad joke from my friend Lance and Camilla.
All right, here we go.
All right. So, what's an astronaut's favorite part of the keyboard?
Let's see. I don't know. I give up.
The space bar.
Oh, damn it. I was looking at my MIDI keyboard, like the piano keyboard, so I was way off. I had a different frame of reference. Damn it.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like it.
Yeah. Actually, I'll do a 2-for-1 tonight.
All right.
So, what do snowmen wear on their heads?
Snowmen. Give up.
Ice caps.
Nice.
Nice. All right, Stomp. So this is the part of the show where we're going to do an advertisement.
All right, let's hear from CS Coffee. Our podcast is supported by CS Instant Coffee, makers of premium compostable coffee. It's straightforward and eco-friendly, perfect for anyone who loves the outdoors as much as we do. Great for backpacking, day hiking, and camping. And here's a little bonus for our listeners. If you want a free sticker, just shoot them an email at info@cs, that's the letter C and S, instant.coffee. And their website is the same, csinstant.coffee. Thanks, CS. Speaking of coffee, we have a coffee donation.
Thank you.
The podcast uses a platform called Buy Me a Coffee. And if you want to support us in our work that we do here, work with rabbit ears, you can certainly do that at Buy Me a Coffee. And this week we actually have a donation from Eric J72, and Eric donated 3 coffees. So thank you very much, Eric. It's much appreciated. And
Thank you, Eric. Stomp, I was thinking like we could, instead of Buy Me a Coffee, maybe me and you could start our own company and get big market cap. We can call it Send Me Some Shekels. We could do that.
Yeah. We might be sued for copyright or trademark infringement.
True. Drop me $1. To come up with a million rhymes here. So, Anyway, so this is the part of the show where we're going to do another advertisement. This is our friends Vaucluse.
I got to tell you, this is probably the time of the year where you got to start wearing this thing. If you're not,
I had it this weekend, and it was very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. So Vaucluse is cool. My new pack, by the way, doesn't have the Vaucluse for 65 liter. It's 65 liters, so I'm relying on what it's built with. But my back has been soaked. You
should try to double it up.
I think it would be like 4 feet long.
Yes.
Oh, man. All right, but check it out. So this is a long-running sponsor of ours, and they're fantastic. So Vaucluse, does your backpack not provide enough ventilation? Does your back sweat too much when backpacking? As you know, sweat can be extremely uncomfortable on the trails. Plus, sweat is a serious risk factor in both hot and cold climates. As your clothes get wet, your core temperature can dramatically fluctuate, and this can result in hypothermia, heat exhaustion, and dehydration. Let's not forget, very uncomfortable. Today's your lucky day because we have good news for you. There's a piece of gear that solves the sweat and ventilation problem, making your backpack more comfortable. Vaucluse Gear's ultralight backpack ventilation frame. This ultralight frame is a backpack accessory that easily installs in your favorite pack, size 15 liters to 45 liters, and creates a ventilating airflow gap between you and your pack. It's also ultralight, weighing around 3 ounces or equivalent to a pair of wool socks. So whether hiking in hot or cold temperatures, the ultralight backpack ventilation frame from Vaucluse Gear is a real game changer regarding airflow and ventilation. So visit them at vauclusegear.com to order an ultralight ventilation frame today. Use promo code SLASHER to enjoy a $5 discount and let them know that Mike and Stomp sent you. And if I remember, we'll bring some of these things to some of the upcoming events this summer if anybody wants to check them out. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Hey, hold my beer. It's time to find out what Mike and Stomp are drinking. On this week's Beer Talk.
All right, Stomp. Now we're going to talk about what beer we're drinking. I'm back on the beer wagon here, or
right.
I'm off the wagon and back on the beer express. I don't know.
Well, what you got? What you cooking with there?
I've been working on finishing up these. It's a IPA, New England IPA from Mighty Squirrel Brewing, and it's called Magic Rain. So I think I've been working on these for the last month or so.
Okay. Well, I saw this earlier, and it's called Funk Daddy, and it's by Greater Good, one of my favorite beer companies, and it's a sour ale. It's 8%, and what caught my curiosity was that it's mixed with blueberry and lemonade, and boy, is it sour. I'm shocked. It's actually, I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit difficult to tolerate. It's like literal lemonade without sugar. Whew.
What's it called again?
It's a Funk Daddy Sour series.
Okay, yeah. Because the Greater Good is like right around the corner from where my daughter went to college, so we would go in there.
Yeah.
And my daughter's boyfriend, he's a big sour guy, and I'm pretty sure that that's what he gets.
Oh my God, yeah, it's shocking.
Yeah, I'll have to ask him and confirm, but yeah. So good stuff. So we are both back to having a drink while we're chilling out here, Stomp, and then now's the part of the show where we talk about recent hikes. Why don't I go first, because mine's not as exciting as yours, because you survived the hike with Dave Shits in the Woods.
Yeah, unscathed.
Very good. So, I'll go through mine first, and then you can do yours. So I got out on Saturday. Basically, that was the only day I had as an option, and my daughter and her boyfriend were around, so she wanted to get out and work on her list. So she's now completed 28 of the 48. So she was proud to tell me she's 7/12 of the way through the list. So we just did Garfield. We went up to the main parking lot of Garfield Ridge Trail and got there. It was pretty crowded, actually. We had to park on the road, which I was surprised given the weather, and pretty uneventful hike. It was kind of gray and dreary. Saw a lot of backpackers. Probably saw I don't know, 2-3 groups of backpackers going up that we passed, and then it was buggy by the river crossing, the water crossings, and then after that it just chilled out pretty much. We got right probably to about 4,000 feet, and the monorail started showing up. So Caroline and Devin put on their spikes, and then I just kept bare booting because I ripped my spikes up and I didn't bring them. So I just bare booted, which was fine. You could get away with bare booting, but that last section of the climb is, a lot of holding on to trees and stuff like that.
To get over the snow? Like the rotten
just to get
snow?
Up. Yeah, it's steep. Yeah, it was rotten snow. It was ice. It was like slipping.
Yeah.
So
what is that, like a tenth of a mile, that little section?
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, you get up to the little rock section, and then you do like a 180, and then it's maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred feet, maybe 200 feet or something like that you just climb up, and then you pop right out onto the summit.
Nice. Yeah, I like Garfield.
But I met, I ran into Rhonda Willette, who I'm gonna try to get her on the show at some point soon. But they were gearing up and putting their spikes on right below the monorail, and then we were doing the same. So we just kind of connected when we got to the summit. But it was a gray, dreary day, 0 views. Kind of windy, but not too cold. So it was just okay. It was just a check it off the list type of hike.
Yeah. For your grid.
Yeah, my grid. I got a May Garfield on my grid too. So my spring grid is pretty weak. So this helped.
Yeah. Oh, nice. All right. Well, I got out Sunday morning with Dave Shits in the Woods, and it's a bushwhack that I had longed to do with Dave. I just wanted to get out with the guy in general for quite a while and get to know him and see what he's all about, because he's always out there crushing all those bushwhacks for the 500 and others, along with Liz. And we got out at like a Mike McLaughlin hour. We were on trail by 7, and we started. We determined we would do the Acteon Ridge, which is something I've done before and we've probably talked about before, and it was great. And this is part of his 69 list.
Oh yeah.
So Bald Knob is the first one closest to Route 49. So basically, we didn't see anybody. It was just so early. We took the Yellow Jacket Trail to the first wooden bridge, then started ascending a climber's trail, which really is amazing. At about 1,200 feet or so, there's 2 ways to go. At this point, to get to Bald Knob or to Acteon, you can follow a pretty established trail at this point that goes through more of a bowl, and it cuts between the col between the 2 peaks. But I had discovered a climbing area on Bald Knob, and Dave agreed that we would go that route, and it was fantastic. So you come across these gigantic boulders that are just massive. I mean, the 100 foot by 60 foot by whatever. They were just massive. And it was really impressive. Found 1 or 2 scrambles that were hilarious, because when you're looking up at a scramble, it looks easier than when you're actually in it doing it. Have you ever had that experience?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. So we found this crack, maybe had to be 20 foot long, and the grade looked reasonable. And I think I posted a picture of Dave stuck in this thing. But the second you get nearing to the top of this crack, it got really sketchy. And it was fairly exposed with a good 50-foot drop to the right. So anyway, we had a lot of fun. So hit Bald Knob, and then we made our way over to Acteon Ridge and searched around for the Register, which is now missing in action, unfortunately. Looked around the summit cone. Acteon itself is 2,400 feet. Super cool little spot. But yeah, I honestly think somebody took the Register. I just couldn't find that damn thing anywhere. And then for the big enchilada, we went over to Sachem Peak, which is 2,784 feet. And Sachem is essentially just a series of giant cliffs. It compared.
Yeah, those are the cliffs that are very prominent when you get out to Jennings, right? You can see when you sit out at Jennings, you can look right out to Sachem
to the right
peaks or whatever there.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So Eric Todd Sweet, when he was on, he was mentioning how fantastic it was. But yeah, I don't know, the span of cliffs themselves maybe run about a good half mile. And at some of the highest points, it has to be at least like a 600-foot drop. I don't know. I'm sort of a bad judge at that, but comparing it to, say, the Old Man of the Mountains, it had to be at least 500 to 600 feet high. And it's a maze of stepwise ledges and just vegetation that you have to work your way through. And then eventually you break out to the last section of cliffs, and it's massive. It's like flat tabletop granite where you could put a tent up. And then the final peak just has this incredible view of Jennings. And again, a precipitous drop just inches away. So it was a great time. After that, it started raining a little bit when we got to that final point, and we made our way back down. We bailed on trying to make it over to Jennings and decided to just go in between the call of Jennings and Sachem and just go back down about half a mile to Smartsbrook Trail itself. And that worked out really well. That's some gnarly terrain in there. It's not, it really is thick, bouldery, and just gnarly. And Dave decided that we would just follow a contour line that took us closer to Smartsbrook Trail itself, and we got out quicker. Had we just beelined it straight down, we would have been in Hell's Kitchen, man. I'm telling you, it's tough bushwhacking in there for sure. But we had a great day. We didn't see anybody. We saw 1 or 2 people on the way out, but nobody bushwhacking that day. And Dave didn't anticipate
any snow in pockets of coals or anything like that.
Zero, literally nothing. Zero. So Acteon Ridge is clean. I would anticipate that Jennings and Sandwich Dome probably have some rotten snow heading up to the dome, but nothing on the ridge. So,
all right. Well, I was, as you were talking, I was looking up an article. So Philip Warner, who is, sectionhiker.com, he's got a nice article about Acteon Ridge Traverse as well.
Really?
So I can include that in the show notes. Yeah, it's pretty good. He went a little bit earlier. He went like May 10th. This is from 2017, but he went a little bit earlier in the year, so there's a little bit of snow. But the way he describes it, he says, like, the bushwhack over to Jennings Peak is like blow-down nightmare.
Oh yeah, no question about it. I did that once, and it's not fun. But what can you do?
And also shout out to Philip Warner too. Matter of fact, section hiker. So he, I saw on social media, he posted he completed his grid. So nice accomplishment for him.
Wow, congrats! That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yep. All right, stop. So we got Fieldstone Kombucha here.
Fieldstone Kombucha, New England's premier craft kombucha company. If you're in the heart of New England, you need to drink a New England-style kombucha. Softer, less acidic, and truly enjoyable. Our kombucha is naturally effervescent and boasts full-bodied flavor. Fieldstone crafts the best seasonal flavors. When we tell you there's strawberries in our garden blush flavor, it's like biting into a sun-ripened strawberry. Woman-owned and operated, we brew in Rhode Island using locally sourced ingredients. Fieldstone Kombucha is the perfect replenishing drink after a day on the slopes or a trek in the woods. It's chock full of probiotics and healthy acids to keep you in top form. Find us at Sunflower Natural Foods in Laconia, La Tasse Cafe in Waterville Valley, the Concord Food Co-op and Granite State Food Co-op in Concord, and more. Check out our website for the full list of New Hampshire and New England-wide locations. And again, you can use code SLASHER, SLASR, on our website for 10% off an online order shipped straight to your door. That's fieldstonekombuchaco.com. Very cool, very cool.
It's time for Slasher's Notable Hike of the Week. If you want to be considered for the Hike of the Week, simply tag Slasher on your social media post.
And let's see, we're moving into the notable hikes. I just have to reiterate, I mentioned this about a month or two ago, but we're getting slammed by notable hikers, and we appreciate the tags for sure, but I think a while back I said we might limit it to like 10 or say 15 or so, and I think that's what we're going to have to do here today. I will make an effort to post your tags on the Instagram so that people can see what you're doing, but moving forward, we got to narrow this down a little bit. And what we're looking for is some really unique hikes and something sort of off the radar that people may not anticipate or be aware of. So let's get into it. We have Dr. Nancy Q. Did Whiteface and Passaconaway with Bruno the dog. Let's see, Liz Fay. I had to add this one. Plymouth Mountain Trail to Plymouth, West Peak, and then back to Pikes Peak. If you haven't done Plymouth Mountain, you really should. It's a beautiful, beautiful trail. It's a beautiful ridge traverse. Absolutely great.
Oh, yeah. That's a good tip, actually, for the listeners. Like, listen to the stuff that Stomp does, like all the, like, off the beaten path stuff around Waterville Valley and where he lives, and then, like, just repeat those, and then he'll be sure to highlight you.
Yeah. That's right.
Or do, like, Burnt Meadow, Pleasant Mountain, Cutler Mountain near where I am, and I'll be like, oh, my God, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, boy. All right, so here's a good one. So, Jude Hikes the Whites did Mount Parker and didn't get lost. I think that might be a dig. That might be a dig, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
EC Banks Hikes.
Best moment.
Check this out. A classic Franconia loop times 3. He says he killed 24 miles, 12,000 K vertical gain, and listened to 2 episodes. Wow, can you imagine that?
Dedication.
Yeah, no kidding. That's awesome. That's some serious work there, Ethan. And Dan DePiero, I love this one. He posted and tagged us. He did try pyramids, but it was actually soaking wet. Like,
I know.
Did you
I
see
saw
the
the
video?
pictures here. I didn't see the video, but I saw the pictures and I was like, oh man, that's not. I think I went hiking the same day as he, and I was like, this is not the day to go up the North Tri-Pyramid slide. But hey, kudos for him.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's so sketchy. Sigur TJ and Carey.
That's Tim. Yeah, that's Tim.
Okay. And Carey Burrell did a sandwich traverse, and I actually reached out to them to get clarification just to know exactly what that was. And apparently it's Passaconaway, Whiteface, Mid-Tri-Pyramid, North Tri for 36 to 38 out of the 48. So that's a nice adventure.
It's a beast of a hike.
Yeah, because in theory, isn't Chicora in the Sandwich Range?
It is, but it's a little, farther east.
Yeah. So you don't really hear about people doing a true traverse of the Sandwich Range, because that would be a hell of an undertaking.
Because that would be Chicora all the way over to
Tri-Pyramids.
Welch Dickey, right?
I don't think Welch Dickey's on it. I think it ends at the other side of 49 here, which would be Smarts. I don't even think the Osceolas are in Sandwich, are they?
I think so. We'll take a look. I'll do some research.
All right. Let's see. So Dave Shits in the Woods did Mount Agassiz and Waternomy, and he was recounting the story when we were on trail. He said there was a bunch of kids up there, just like beatboxes and fist fights, that type of scenario up at Waternomy, just sort of breaking the mood. Amy Frechette 10 did a Crawford Ridgepole Traverse with the Pemi Valley Hikers. That's super cool. That's on my list to do. Let's see. Penn Barks did Osceola and East Osceola. TDS Afterlife hiked up Galehead. And then Mike M774 hiked Mount Washington via the Lionhead Trail, then Monroe for number 46, then down Bootspur. That's a nice day.
That's a good loop.
Absolutely. And another thing I'm not too familiar with here, Izzy Rizzitano comes back to us, and she did the Bennington Triangle area of the Long Trail, and apparently it was a 27-mile section that she tackled.
Yeah, and I think if she's talking about the Bennington Triangle, so I believe that is like an infamous area for either paranormal or criminal activity. I can't remember the details, but I remember listening to a podcast about it.
Really? Interesting. I've never heard of it.
Yeah. Huh. And then just to clarify, Stomp, the summits in the Sandwich Range is Chicora, Mount Kangamangas, Mount Passaconaway, Paugus, Tri-Pyramid, Whiteface, Wanalancet, Sandwich, and the Sleepers. So you're right. It doesn't extend out to Osceola. So I think the farthest west would be the Tri-Pyramids.
Yeah. Okay. So that would include Jennings too, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Very good. And then stop. So this is now we're going to go into our segment. So we get a chance to sit down with Carey Kish. So again, Carey is a longtime hiker. He hiked the Appalachian Trail in 1977 from Georgia to Maine. He's a local, grew up in Maine. Really interesting guy. He's written a number of books. So he's written the Maine Mountain Guide. So essentially like the same thing as the White Mountain Guide that Steve Smith and Ken McGray work on. He's done the Maine Mountain Guide for the AMC. He's also written a book called the AMC Best Day Hikes Along the Maine Coast. And then most recently, he wrote a book called Bear Hiking New England, The Tastiest Way, which I think I'd recommend people pick that up for their father for Father's Day. I think that would be a cool gift if you got a father that's a hiker or a beer drinker. So that hits like 99% of the fathers I know out there. So it was a great call. He was on a break from the CDT. I think he had either a free night or a free day or something like that. So he was able to catch up with us, and it was really interesting. So let's go into the segment now with Carey.
Loop, loop.
It's time for Slasher's Guest of the Week. Very cool, very cool.
All right, so Carey Kish, welcome to the Slasher Podcast.
Well, gents, thanks for having me. This is going to be fun. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're really you're really blowing up in the world now that you've made it on here.
Absolutely, yes.
Right. So for the listeners, Carey is on trail right now. So you are about 600-700 miles into the Continental Divide Trail?
Yeah, I'm at mile 680, a place called Ghost Ranch in northern New Mexico. I've got about 90 miles to the Colorado border. So
yeah, how
I'm on it.
So this is not your first thru hike. How are things going so far compared to the 2 times you did the Appalachian Trail and the time you did the PCT?
Well, this is the Continental Divide Trail is a whole different ballgame, that's for sure. It's a lot wilder. We got some crazy weather out here in New Mexico, and I think that'll continue. I mean, I'm in the Rockies, so it throws everything at you. So it's going really well. I can't complain. I started March 30th, and I've covered, like I said, about 600 because of alternate routes, I've covered a little less than the official mileage. You have a few more choices here than like the AT or the PCT. So, but it's been going well. I can't complain. No blisters. I mean, no blisters.
Every day, no one's going to listen, first of all, and then every day on the trail is a good day. So
yeah, I'm not sitting at home hunched over my laptop, so I can't.
True.
I'll take that.
Like us.
well, yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but
yeah, we'll get out there at some point. So now, are you? What is your style as far as thru hiking? Are you like a super planner, or do you just kind of do a general idea of where you're going to be week to week and just roll with it?
Well, I am a planner. I did put a spreadsheet together because you have to have some kind of outline for a trip that's going to be 3,000 miles and 6 months long. But a plan is just a plan when you finally get out there. And, I work with that plan to know where I'm going to be, what towns, but night by night, day by day, water source by water source, it's all kind of, you're kind of making it up as you go. But the plan is the backbone of the whole thing, and it's helpful.
Got it. Now, how does it compare to the other long distance trails as far as, I mean, I don't know enough about the Continental Divide, but my impression is that, there's not as many, stops in town. There's not as many resources as far as getting rides into town or hostels and things like that are at your fingertips like you have in the Appalachian Trail, at least. So are you finding that to be true?
Incredibly, that's changing. I think, the AT, clearly very popular, has been, always growing in numbers. The PCT, same thing. This one, I think last year they said about 400 people started north from the Mexican border. I think that's going to be higher this year. There's a pretty good crowd out here. As a matter of fact, the quote-unquote bubble just kind of passed through here. I don't know how many people that is, but so there's a lot more resources to this trail. I think hikers are turning to this trail as more of a wilderness experience for long-distance hiking. And most everybody out here, but perhaps one person I know, has hiked one or the other or both of the long trails, the AT and the PCT, before coming out here.
Got it. So your experience, and that's my impression too, is that the CDT is typically done by people that have cut their teeth in some other long trail, and they're not. I mean, I'm sure that there's people that have started doing it with the Continental Divide, but my experience is that it seems to be like the second or third hike for people. Yeah,
you kind of have to have your what together out here, because a lot can go wrong. There's navigational challenges, there's weather challenges, there's altitude, there's sun, there's water challenges. I mean, it throws everything at you. I have an app on my phone. We all do for long distance hiking these days, but I have still found myself, a half mile off trail at times, because you just wander this way down a cow path that looks like the trail. You just wander across a flat of sagebrush because it looks like that's the way to go, and then you go, whoa, I'm way out of here. There's signs, there's markers, and then there's not. There's a turn off a forest road onto a trail, you walk right by it, and vice versa. So you got to pay attention. You got to keep it together. And you're alone. I mean, I've been alone most of the time. I'm seeing more hikers, but you've got to really be self-reliant.
Yeah. Do you struggle with that? Do you have a hard time if you're on your own for 2-3 days and you don't have that human interaction, or are you more of an introvert person that can handle that no problem?
Well, I'm not an introvert, that's for sure. But, I might have said that in the past, but I'm loving the solitude. I won't pass up the chance to chat with another hiker or camp together, but I have no problem hanging out by myself. All day long you're pretty much on your own, and you just your mind's just kind of wandering, and you're taking in the scenery, and it's great. And then if most nights, I'd say I've been out here 47 days, I think, something like that. I've camped with other people maybe 6 times.
Wow.
So
I'm assuming at this point in your, you got a lot of hiking experience. We'll talk about like your writing background, and you're a New England guy and all that, but you probably have your gear pretty well dialed in through over the years. Did you have to sort of consciously make any decisions around changing up your gear for this hike, or is it pretty much the same setup that you've been using for a while?
I've got some gear that works. I do things a little bit differently. They've got all the super lightweight hikers and all the super lightweight gear, and I don't quite fit into that mold. I'm still wearing boots, although they're very lightweight boots. It's what works for my feet. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm walking out of here on my 8th pair of Loa Renegade boots. I've gone about 7,000 miles in those and not had a single blister. I think pretty much everyone else out here is wearing trail runners, but that's great. I wear what works for me, and same with everyone else. The other thing is I'm carrying an Osprey pack. I got a new one for this hike. And I'm not just trying to throw out brand names here, but it's what works for me, and it's heavier than most of the other packs that people are carrying out here. So I think I'm carrying probably 5 pounds at least more than the average hiker, although there's some folks out here that are carrying a few extras. I've got a freestanding tent. Most people are using those Dyneema brands using the trekking poles to set it up. So I'm doing things a little bit differently, but that's what works for me. I don't like to do too much friggin' with the rigging, if you will. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm assuming I like that saying. Stomp. We may have to copyright that.
Right.
You're welcome to that one. I've got a few others.
You probably already did, didn't you?
Yeah.
So, well, that's good. And then I'm assuming hammocking is not an option for the Continental Divide.
Oh, I think it is. I hiked with a guy for more than 1,000 miles on the Pacific Crest Trail, and he was a hammocker, and he hammocked every night of the PCT. And he did the CDT 2 years ago, and I haven't asked him, but I think he hammocked every night as well.
Okay.
And I saw him hammock in some wild situations where, like, some really weird trees that weren't going to hold up, but he made it work. And he hammocked off a stone wall one night too, in the Sierra at the John Muir hut. So people can do it.
Yeah, I picture him being strapped between two Charlie Brown Christmas trees and just waiting for it to fall over.
I have seen him do that. His name is Ranger. He's a good guy.
Wow. Well, how would you compare? So how long have you been doing these long distance thru hikes? How many years since your first one?
Well, the first one was when I was 18, 1977, straight out of Bangor High School. That was I was the AT, and then life kind of gets in the way. You got jobs and college and relationships and all that happy stuff, and so I didn't do. I mean, I did plenty of hiking, some long distance hikes over 2-3 weeks, but I didn't get back to a long distance hike of this magnitude until 2015, and that's when I did the AT a second time.
Yeah, and what is your thoughts on, even though obviously the 70s, it's a little bit of a different game, but over the last 10 years or so, have things changed? Is it the access to information that the thru hikers have? Is it that I guess I'm curious to get your perspective on how has thru hiking changed over the last 10 years or so, and is it for the better from your perspective?
Well, I mean, everybody has access to a lot of information. There's no question about it. Clearly, some people choose not to take great advantage of that, which is unfortunate because that's an easy way to get in trouble out here. But, I think one of the things that has revolutionized everything is, I don't know how many other apps there are, but we're all using the Far Out app. It was actually Guthook. Ryan Lynn out of Portland, Maine, I think, was the creator of that app. So it's universal. Everybody's using it. The other thing that I think has kind of revolutionized things is the Garmin or the Spot, the satellite communicators. I'm using the upgraded Garmin InReach Mini 2, and I'm able to keep in touch with other people on the trail, and my wife, who's actually out here supporting me with our truck and camper. So it's kind of cool. So with those things, but still, all the technology in the world, as you folks well know, can still leave you in trouble if you don't make the right decisions. And there are a lot of decisions you need to make to keep yourself safe out here, and to make progress. And so Barney Mann, a famous guy from the PCT, trail angel and long distance hiker himself. I mean, that was one of the big things he said the night before I started the PCT. He was hosting 40 of us hikers, and he does that for a month or two each year. He said, make good decisions. And I think I'd like that to be the title of my book on these long distance hikes is good decision making, something like that. It's critical.
And we often talk about it's also small decisions. So a lot of times you make 5 or 6 small decisions and you've already walked past the point where you're in trouble and you can't think through. So figuring out that inner voice that says okay, this is not good. Let's turn around or let's change it up.
Yeah,
it takes a lot to develop that, and not everybody can get that developed.
It's interesting. I was having dinners with some hikers the night before. This was in Lordsburg, New Mexico, way down south. And my shuttle was going out to the border the next morning, and a couple of guys were at the table, and theirs was going out 2 days later. But one of the guys said, He said he had heard the Continental Divide Trail called the PhD of long distance hiking. And I thought, wow, I'd never heard that. And that's pretty interesting because, I have a lot of time to think out here. And I've thought about how, for me personally, this is really putting everything together, like a lifetime of experience just being alive and a lifetime of hiking experience, a lifetime of this kind of decision making is all going into this walk. And it's pretty cool. I just, I hope that keeps me out of trouble.
Yeah. I hope that you complete your doctorate degree.
Yeah. Going ahead, it's interesting. I've got a lot of snow just in the next 6-7 days to get to the Colorado border, over 11,000 feet. So we'll see how that all goes. I walked through some snow and some storms, but, you got to pay attention. Route finding, keeping yourself dry, all the things that go into this. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And do you have like a set plan? Like, I know I'll be done by whatever, September, or are you just taking it day by day at this point?
Well, you have a shorter window than most for other trails, and you have the longer distance. This is much longer than the AT. This is longer than the Pacific Crest Trail. So you got to get this thing done, and I want to do it. My goal is to do it all this year, and that may take me into October.
Okay.
But I went into October on the Pacific Crest Trail, and I got snowed out in northern Washington. I had 3 or 4 snowstorms right in a row, and it was like, wow, I was going into the Glacier Peak Wilderness, and it was too late, too dangerous, too remote, and I backed out. So I didn't finish that till a couple of years later. I'm hoping that's not the case this year. As a matter of fact, interestingly, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get to the Colorado border, Cumbres Pass, and probably flip up to Wyoming, do a section called the Great Divide Basin up there, and it's kind of high desert. It'll be snow-free. And then flip up to Glacier National Park at the Canadian border and hike south. So I think that's a winning strategy for getting this trail done this year, in 1 year. So we'll see. Everybody has, it's really hard. I'm not a young guy, and I don't have long legs, so I only have so much real estate to work with, and it takes a long time to walk 3,000 miles, and so you have to be creative. And there's some folks that I don't know if very few people go straight through on this trail, but it's. A lot of us are moving around to
moving around, yeah. What do you max out at as far as and I know that this is each trail's different, and it's 20 miles on one may not be the same as 20 miles on another, but is your goal like, okay, I want to get up to shape where I can do 20 miles a day, or is that more than what you typically do? No, I've done a couple of 25-mile days. I've done a bunch of days over 20. You pick your battles, I think. Is the terrain suitable that day for 25 miles? Is water a factor in your decision as to how far you go? Are you trying? I just wrote about this for the Maine Sunday Telegram today. Are you trying to get into town because you want to get a room and a shower and a meal? So the town's 25 miles. I'm going to just crank it out. Are you trying to get to some trail magic or something? So you probably don't do your 25 miles the first day out with your heavy pack, a week's worth of food and water, but you pick your day. If you're feeling good, you make the miles. I'm averaging about 18 miles a day, which is about what I need to do to make this thing happen in 6 months. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Right. Yeah. And you'll have your good days, you'll have your bad days, you'll have your zeros as well.
The other day, 3-4 days ago, I struggled to do 14 and a half. It was just that kind of day. But I've done 22, 23 with wow, I could do more, but I'm just going to sit down and have dinner and go to bed.
Yeah. Now, you touched on this a little bit, sort of your early days. So, if you did the Appalachian Trail in the 70s when you were a young man, I'm assuming that you grew up exposed to the outdoors. Can you talk a little bit about like your early life? And I want to get into a little bit about your background growing up, and then talk about your writing career.
Sure. Well, living in Maine, the outdoors is everything. I've lived on the coast. I've lived inland. Maine is, I heard it called the Alaska of the East the other day, and I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think it is. Well, Alaska might be the Maine of the West. I don't know.
Makes sense.
That might be more accurate. Maine is just tailor-made for being an outdoors person. I don't hunt. I've never been much of a angler, but I sure do love hiking and backpacking and camping, and there's plenty of that. So I've done that all my life from the time before I did the AT in the 70s and all the way through. And Maine has been kind of my palette, if you will, of for enjoying life. There's just so much there. I feel that if you're living in Maine and you love the outdoors, you've got everything. So,
do you recall what the trigger was for you to decide to do the Appalachian Trail at graduation, or around when you were a young man?
I sure do. My family, I grew up a little bit in New Jersey, and we used to vacation in the Berkshires of Western Mass, and part of our vacation every year was to drive up Mount Greylock, and as the road winds up to the top,
beauty.
It crosses the AT 2, maybe 3 times. And my dad would stop the car because I'd see the signs, and we'd walk into the woods, and I just became so fascinated by the idea that these white blazes led from that point north 500 something miles to Katahdin and south 1,500 miles to Springer Mountain in Georgia. And I was 11, 10, 9, 8, I don't know. I was really young, and I never, ever got that out of my head. So, much to the detriment of my high school studies, that was pretty much all I could think about. And when I was 18, I actually kind of talked my way out of high school a couple months early to go start the trail. And it really, that experience at that young age really kind of altered my DNA. I think in a good way. But it really changed things, and I've never been able to look at things the same way.
And did you were you already accepted to college? Like you had a plan, you were going to college, and this was the time to do it before you went off, or did you not?
No, I had no plan. I had the AT as a plan. This really upset my parents.
Oh, I bet.
And I'm sure my teachers and everything else. No, I had a few issues as a kid, and this was one of them. And, it took me, when I talk about altering the DNA, that the whole being out there, living a simple life of food, shelter, and clothing on the AT, in a sense, it kind of messed me up. And it took me a couple of years to figure things out and go through some hard times before I was able to apply and get into college. So it was a tough period, and I made some mistakes, but kind of got it all together. Got into college, the University of Maine, got a degree, got a master's degree. So. And I'm still hiking. So
yeah, you kept the passion somehow.
Yeah.
So you eventually, so for the listeners, so you're aware, so Carey has he's the author of the Maine Mountain Guide. So this is essentially like the White Mountain Guide, but it's all the hiking trails for Maine. So this is the AMC book. So this is the Bible for hiking in Maine.
Exactly.
So you started writing this in 2015, correct?
No, it goes back to 2010. I've done 3.
2010.
I've done 3 editions. I've been writing all my life. I've always been a pretty good writer. I was never a trained journalist, but I am a professional writer now, and I have been for 20 years. I was writing for the Maine Sunday Telegram, the hiking column, which is something I've done since 2002, I think. So I've got many hundreds of thousands of words just in that publication alone under my belt. So I'd been doing that at the time for 7 or 8 years, and Rob Burbank, who was then the PR director for the AMC, they were looking for somebody to take over the Maine Mountain Guide and basically rewrite it. And Rob got hold of me and he says, you want to do that? And I said, absolutely yes. Mm-hmm. So it was a huge project. It was we were reformatting it, rewriting it, and I took that opportunity right then and there. And anybody out there who knows what that book looks like today, I added a lot of new hikes, and that book today is at least double its size. It rivals the White Mountain Guide. My friends, the editors, Steve Smith and Ken McGray, will get a chuckle out of that. But I'm quite proud of that. So, you know, the 12th edition just came out last year, and it's been huge. It's been a monumental project to keep going with that, but I just absolutely love it.
How do you go about the research for finding new trail systems, and then what's the decision point in adding new trail systems? Is it completely up to your discretion if you find like, okay, this is above a town trail, but not quite like big enough to make it to the book, or how do you make that judgment?
Well, it's been my call, so that's a great question. It's technically a comprehensive guide to the mountain trails of Maine, and there are some exceptions to that. And I work on those on a case-by-case basis. If we were to make that a comprehensive guide to all the hiking trails in Maine, it would be about 4 volumes. So there's got to be some kind of limit there. So if it's a mountain, a hill, a bump, it's in the book. If it's a contributing trail to the trail system for access, it's probably in the book as well. And I'm just I constantly have my ear to the ground, if you will, my sensors out to discover new trails. I stay in touch with all the land trusts and all the land management agencies. I work closely with the Bureau of Parks and Lands on all their land. So I'm constantly, and I'm out there too, because there's trails in the book that I found just by happenstance, just by being out there and going, oh, that's new. Where does that go? So it's a journey of discovery all the time. And if you find me out in the woods, it's very likely I have my GPS, my phone, and my notebook and pen. I have volumes of field notebooks because I'm always out hiking trails and updating them. And it's a lot of work.
I'm curious about the guide. So 2 questions for you. One is it a thing, like it is a thing in New Hampshire where people try to hike all the trails in the White Mountain Guide? Is anybody pursuing trying to hike all of the trails in the guide? And then number 2, are you pursuing that?
I honestly, I must admit, there are about I think I'm down to 10 or 11 mountains in the guide that I've never hiked, that I've relied on other people. But I'm not going to tell you what those hikes are. Okay. because there are some people out there right now trying to quote unquote redline the whole Maine Mountain Guide, and I wish them well. Good luck. Mm-hmm. You better get them done soon, because the next edition will be out, and I'll have more. I already have more. So
okay. Oh, well, that's interesting. And then,
you know what? I got to say though, it's really cool having the arc of experience, all of this time in Maine and in the Maine woods and on our trails, that the amount of conservation that has happened over the last 30, 40 years is extraordinary. And with that, the trail building and all of the infrastructure, we're just so lucky. And across New England, really. There's just so much that has happened, and new trails are popping up all the time. And so really, I got to say hats off to the conservationists, the preservationists, the trail builders, the maintainers. As a matter of fact, I dedicated the 12th edition of the Maine Mountain Guide to the trail maintainers of the state, with a shout out especially to the Baxter State Park Trail crew, because without them, there are no trails. You know, if I always say, you know, people should be volunteering. There's so much to be done, and all of these folks, they need more help. They need more hands-on, you know. Pick up a pair of clippers.
I even see it in our little, like I have relatives that live in Western Maine by Freiburg, and like I even see it like Mount Cutler and Hiram has just opened up over the last couple of years. I mean, that's a whole 5-6 miles worth of trail system there. And then obviously I spend a lot of time in Burnt Meadow and Pleasant Mountain. And I tell people all the time from New Hampshire, I'm like, come over to Western Maine. Like there's these mountains out here, and sometimes they get crowded, but they're not as bad as New Hampshire, and they're just as challenging.
Yeah, and you know, you got to find a way to give back. It's very easy to use our trails and not think about how they got there, and we really need to, because every trail organization needs more help.
Yeah, and I think Maine is just so immensely. It's much bigger than most of the other states, and so the work is much more spread out, I would imagine.
Yes, it is. And speaking of, I'll put in a plug for me. If anyone wants to help me with the next edition of the Maine Mountain Guide, I am all over it.
Oh, cool.
I am all over it.
Well,
it's a nice offer. It's a big state, a lot of ground to cover, and I'm just one guy.
Now, one other project that you got 2 other books, but the one I want to focus on is you did a recent project which is like it's music to our ears here. So, and I think that you definitely are keeping your eye on sort of the sort of culture of hiking, because you were smart enough to put together a book that highlights cool hikes and then attaches those hikes to cool breweries across New England, correct?
Absolutely. It's called Beer Hiking New England, 50 hikes paired with 50 breweries. That's a great idea. What a joy that was to put together. The research was very difficult.
I bet.
Do you remember it?
Some of my notes early on are a little sketchy. I must admit to having walked out of a few breweries early on and gone, oh my God, I never took a photo or a note. But I did drink 3 IPAs.
Right.
So I kind of had to get my act together with that. But, you know, I thought I knew New England. And it turns out there was a lot I didn't know. That book, as it is now, will take you all over New England to places you've probably never heard of, and you'll drink some great beer, and you'll meet some really cool people, both the land managers and the brewers and their staff. It was just so much fun. I just discovered, you know, like for example. I thought, well, I've got to include Rhode Island in the book, but what the heck's in Rhode Island? I-95, Pawtucket, and Providence, right? Maybe some ocean. Well, I get down there. It turns out there's a wealth of public lands in Rhode Island and a heck of a lot of good beer. And the same I found with Connecticut and Massachusetts. And, you know, I knew Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont a little better, but I saw some cool stuff, and I had a chance to really do this great geographic dispersal of my breweries and hikes. And so you get that book, you'll go all over and take your own notes, because I'll need to redo that book at some point, so I'll be interested.
All the listeners want to know is there a patch involved with this challenge?
You know, there should be, and
oops.
My publisher and I we'll talk about that for the next time, because but you will get my personal hats off if you get around to all 50 of them.
That's awesome.
And I think in the course of the research, I drove something like 20,000 miles, hiked about 500 or 600, and I'm embarrassed to say that I probably over the course of 3 years drank about 800 something beers. So
you needed to build up those calories for the hike you're on right now.
Absolutely. But
So how many calories is that?
Oh, it's a lot.
800.
Yeah, get back to us when you finish the math, Stomp. So a question about the beer book. So you included a little, tidbits of history in the segments of the book, right? So was there anything that stood out to you, like anything you learned historically traveling through New England to do the book?
I learned, if I had forgotten it, I learned anew then just how geographically diverse New England is. Like I was telling you, I just saw so many different places that I just didn't know were there. And I think one of the coolest things was, New England has been at the forefront of beer making, breweries for a long time now. We're leaders. Maine is a leader. Massachusetts has tons of them. I was just really, it was heartwarming to interview the brewers and the owners and the staff and find out just how passionate all of these breweries are about their product, their beer, about their staff and their patrons and their community. And I tried to put that all into the book in the little snippets I did on each of the breweries. It was great. It was great. I learned a lot, and I met a lot of great people. And you will too, as you go around to these trails and these breweries. There's a lot of cool people out there.
Yeah. For the listeners, I think this is the Father's Day gift that you want to pick up. So this is the book is called Beer Hiking New England: The Tastiest Way, and we'll include this in the show notes. But this is definitely like this will if you have a father or anybody, even a mom. And they like beer and they like hiking, like this is they need to have this.
Yeah, and you'll get to taste a lot of different beers. It's not all IPAs. I tried to feature not always the flagship. It could have been a beer that the guy on the next bar stool was drinking, or somebody across the table, or whatever I felt like that day. There's just so much good beer and so many great trails.
Yeah, for sure. So 2 questions for you. Hidden gems in Maine, from your perspective, if you were to recommend to somebody, and again, I use Burnt Meadow all the time because that's close to me, that a lot of people aren't as familiar with it, but do you have any recommendations on hikes or mountains that you tell people, go check this out? You're not going to see a lot of crowds, but you're going to get good views. And I know obviously we're asking a lot for you to give away your secrets. But,
no.
It's just me, you, and Stomp.
No. Pretty much anything in Aroostook County. Okay. And I've got a story coming out in the Maine Sunday Telegram either next Sunday or the week after, and it's on hikes in the North Maine woods up in Aroostook County. You'll drive a lot of gravel logging roads. You won't see a lot of people. You'll get some great views, and there are some pretty deserted campsites up there. So that would be one thing. If you haven't done a lot of exploring in the northern parts of the counties like Piscataquis and Penobscot and Somerset and all that, and then Aroostook County, you're missing out because it's big, wild country. Another cool place that it has kind of come around recently is Cobb's Cook Shores out in the Lubec area. There's a few mountains out there, and some of them are in the Maine Mountain Guide and my Coastal Hikes book. But check out Cobb's Cook Shores. It's just pristine country, and there's some good hikes. Some are 5 miles, some are a half mile, but some of that down east terrain is really out of control, beautiful. So those are a couple of my favorites anyway.
Got it. And then can you talk a little bit, so you live close to Acadia, can you talk a little bit about what's it like living there as a local, and you see the population explosion over the summer. Are you used to it at this point? I mean, it must be a lot of years where it's just sort of in the background for you, but can you give a local's perspective of what it's like when Acadia gets busy? Yeah,
you're getting 4 million visitors a year, and most of them come between, Memorial Day and the middle of October. So it's hard sometimes, but it's beautiful. When I retired, we were living in Portland, down the Portland area, my wife and I never, when I retired from a regular job, I never thought I'd move north, but we just happened to be up there hiking one year in October. It's probably 10 or 11 years ago now, and ended up buying a house and living on the island. And what we were looking for was a place where we could just go hiking without driving 2 hours, and that's what we do. So we've got all of the 220 miles of trails on the island, plus the carriage roads, and in the wintertime, cross-country skiing on the carriage roads. There's sea kayaking, there's canoeing. It's pretty cool. Do you have to battle the traffic? People think all of Mount Desert Island is a national park, so sometimes you'll have people actively parking in the middle of the road because they think they can. It can take an hour and a half to get to Ellsworth to go to the grocery store. So, there's some upsides and there's some downsides, but I wouldn't trade it. I'm just thrilled to death to be able to say I live. As a matter of fact, our property abuts Acadia National Park, so we can walk right into the park.
Not bad, but unfortunately, you still can't get away from the car situation because you decided to write the book and drive all over New England, and now you got the support crew on the Continental Divide. So no matter what you do, you're putting miles on your car.
Yeah, it's just the way of the world. Life is short. You got to get around, and
right.
So we we try to keep our environmental footprint down in other ways, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. So the plans for you normally, I'd say what's your plans for the future? But you're basically going to be on trail for the next 4 or 5 months. Do you think this will be it for you for long trails at this point?
Maybe of this length, 3,000 miles, perhaps yes. But I've got a lot of other trails I'm interested in. The Arizona Trail from Mexico up to Utah is high on the list. That's 800 miles. I would love to do the Camino de Santiago from France across to the other side of Spain. That's 500 and something miles. So I think shorter hikes. I have a fair number of books I would like to write. Some are works in progress. Others are just still ideas. So I got to spend a little more time getting those in order. Shorter hikes that don't take 6 or 7 months might be good, but never say never.
Yeah, you'll see how this goes. And now, do you let the beard just go wild for the next 6 months, or do you keep it trimmed up?
No, those days are over, I think. In the desert, I got myself a good haircut, and I've been trimming the beard, so I probably won't look as shaggy as when I came off the PCT or the AT.
Got it. And do you keep an eye on the diet at all, or do you pretty much just eat whatever's readily available?
I eat whatever is in front of me, and I may eat what's in front of you. If you're not careful. We bought here at Ghost Ranch. It's a education and retreat center, and they cater to hikers because it's like right off the trail, and it's a beautiful place. This is Georgia O'Keeffe country, and for $30 you get lunch, dinner, breakfast, and lunch, all you can eat. And I've been here 2 days, and I'm not losing any weight, which is probably a good thing because I'm probably burning about 4,000 plus calories a day. I can't carry enough food to fuel my body. No one can out here. It's pretty wild. And my pants are already pretty loose. I know at the end of the Pacific Crest Trail up in Washington, it was embarrassing. My wife came to meet me, and I had to wear a pair of her pants because nothing fit me, and they were loose on me. As a matter of fact, I got back to my high school weight of 142 pounds. I lost 32 pounds, and I'm pretty much on target to do that again. Walking with a backpack up and down mountains all day for months at a time will definitely alter your physique.
Yeah, no doubt. And the problem too is that your body becomes so efficient that sometimes you get caught in this trap where you have a hard time eating the calories you need to eat in order to burn. So I know sometimes that hunger is not a problem, but I think sometimes it gets challenging to be able to consume as much food as you need.
Yeah, I've just packed my bag for the next week before the show tonight, and you would have noticed several Hostess fruit pies going in that pack at 500 calories apiece. So,
oh wow!
You've really got to pack it in. But I've also taken some pointers from other hikers out here who have performed pretty well, and I've added some more dried fruit to my regimen, and more nuts and things like that, more jerky. So I'm trying to be a little smarter about it than all the crap I ate on the other two trails, because that really only goes so far.
Yeah, it's a lot of empty calories. But Carey, this is great. Stomp, I don't know, did I miss any questions? Anything you want to cover?
I was curious, Mike. Is it 2.5 million visitors per year to the White Mountains? Is that the stat?
Yeah, I think around 4 million visitors, 2.5 million hikers.
Compared to what did you say, Carey? 5 million.
4 million visitors a year to Acadia, which is a whole lot smaller and more compact. And there's one bridge on and off the island, so it's that's amazing. It's pretty wild. Bar Harbor is out of control in the middle of the summer, but it's still beautiful. There's no place like it. So,
wow! I did want to just say thank you to Agent Sweezy. She's one of our listeners, and she helps us behind the scenes sometimes. So, she was the referral source for you, Carey.
Oh, that's awesome!
Again, thank you, Lynn. And finally, on my end, do you know Steve Smith personally?
I certainly do. Mountain Wanderer Bookstore.
Okay. There you go. So you got to put the bug in his ear to come on the podcast.
Oh,
yeah. You were a test case, so you didn't run away screaming. So maybe Steve will listen to it and say, "Okay, well, these guys aren't too bad."
I will send him a note, see if I can get Steve and his co-editor Ken McGray. I'll get them your way.
Yeah, well, it's so funny.
Yeah, we're getting closer.
Yeah, it's so funny how you mentioned how like the Continental divides the piece. I've used the same analogy when it comes to New Hampshire hiking, where I've said like the 4,000 footer list is like your undergrad degree. The 52 with a view is your master's program, and then the terrifying 25 is where you really get your PhD in New Hampshire. So I've used the same thing, but I think I'm talking maybe a smaller university. You're in the Ivy Leagues here with the big launch.
Well, I'll tell you guys, I've got a long ways to go. So it's you only eat this elephant one bite at a time. I've got 2,500 miles to go, but one step at a time, one day at a time. I attack this like the AA people. One day at a time.
Yeah. So, but I think for the listeners, if you're interested in Carey's work, we'll include information into where you can purchase some of his books. So again, the Maine Mountain Guide from the AMC. He's got a book that's the AMC's best day hikes along the Maine coast. And then, like we talked about, the great idea for Father's Day, bear hiking New England. So we'll make sure we include the links for how you can purchase all of those. And, we'll also include a little bit of info. You get an Instagram page and all that, so people can follow along.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Exploits.
I'd love to have more folks follow the hike. There's some beautiful country out here, and a lot of people haven't seen it, and I love sharing it.
Yeah, well, we want you to stay safe, and like you said, one step at a time, and keep us updated, and we'll be rooting for you.
And one beer at a time.
One beer at a time. See, priorities. So.
Yeah, and I did the math on that, so it's 600,000 calories that you consumed during the writing of that book.
Yeah. Hey, just quickly, on the AT, it was a funny thing. I got the name Beer Man, the trail name Beer Man on the AT, and I actually I had a 0.247 BPM on the AT. Beers per mile.
Nice.
I was going to say beats per minute.
BPM.
What is that?
But I tell you, as I've gotten a little older and the trails have gotten tougher, like the PCT, I did a lot less. And out here, I enjoy a beer, but I'm not trying to do a heavy duty BPM. I just want to finish. So
beers per mile. That's a new metric. I'm going to have to start measuring.
BPM.
Right? That's perfect. Excellent.
Yeah,
well, all right.
That's fantastic.
Well, Carey, best of luck to you, and we'll keep the listeners updated. We'll keep an eye on your progress.
Sounds like a plan. You guys made it easy. I love you. Thank you so much for having me on, and hello to everybody.
Awesome.
You bet.
Awesome.
All right, take care.
All right, Stomp.
That was great. What a cool guy.
Excellent guy. Yeah, really interesting. Like fascinating life.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to. It's so romantic. I don't know if it's my kind of lifestyle, but some people really enjoy just living that life outdoors. Yeah, they thrive on it, and Carey is one of those people.
Yeah. I always wonder how I would do sort of on those long trails for extended amount of time versus like my preference is to sort of like do the day hike and then come back and have dinner with the family. But I'm sure you get used to it, and he certainly lived quite an interesting life, and he's given back so much to the community with the writing and the volunteer work and everything. So, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep the crew update, or we'll keep the listeners updated on how he's doing. And the CDT is interesting because you do bounce around quite a bit, so it's not always a linear hike. But I'm sure that he'll bang it out and get it done.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, Stomp. So moving on to our final segment of the show, which is recent search and rescue news. So starting off, we've got 48 peaks.
Excellent. Use your passion for hiking to help end Alzheimer's. In one collective effort, 400 plus hikers will climb New Hampshire's 4,000 footers or create their own challenge to support the mission of the Alzheimer's Association. The annual hiker celebration will take place Saturday, June 8th at Reckless Brewing Company with raffles, food, and an amazing community. Hike that weekend or any day you want. No fundraising minimums required, but those who raise $100 will receive this year's performance grade purple t-shirt. Let's turn the White Mountains purple to end Alzheimer's. Visit alts.org/48 peaks to learn more. And, Mike and I will be there. I'll be spinning some tunes under the new Slasher tent. So come on by and say hi.
Yep. And I just got my patch in the mail.
Oh, did you? Say, well, what peak are you doing now?
I don't know, actually. I got to talk with Lynn. I forget.
Okay. All right. Agents.
Nobby was reaching out to me, asking me as well. And I was like, I have no idea. I'm just showing up. Tell me where to be.
Who else is on your team? Do you know?
I have no idea.
All right. Well, I think you might have a couple celebrities.
I probably do. I just I got to do some research. I know Lynn has it covered, and I'm going to be there. I'm going to raise my money, but I just haven't got a chance. It's been so crazy with work.
Well, let's just say you better start working on some handstands, okay?
Yes. Okay. Oh no. Okay. We'll see. Stomp. Have you ever heard of a hoodoo?
A hoodoo? I have no idea what a hoodoo is.
Hoodoo. So apparently the word means to bewitch, but there's also a different meaning in Utah's Bryce Canyon, and it's a certain type of rock formation. And apparently hoodoo is a tall, skinny shaft of rock that protrudes from the bottom of arid basins, and they're commonly found in high plateau regions of Colorado and in the Badlands of the northern Great Plains. So hoodoos are scattered throughout these areas. Nowhere in the world are they as abundant as in the northern section of Bryce Canyon National Park.
Okay. Oh, so they're like spires?
The difference between a hoodoo and a spire is that hoodoos have a variable thickness, often described as having a totem pole-shaped body.
Oh, that's right. Okay, cool. I'm looking at some pics. Huh. All right.
So the reason I bring this up, Stomp, is that there was a guy that was in Bryce Canyon that jumped across a gap, and as he was onto one of these hoodoos, so he was like, I'm full send, I'm jumping over to the hoodoo, and apparently it's like 1,000-foot drop if you miss it, but it's like a 5-foot jump, so it's dangerous, but not a dangerous enough where you could really like miss it. But apparently, as he jumped, he hurt his ankle.
Oh, damn.
So he sort of found himself sitting on this hoodoo with a broken ankle and a 5-foot jump to get back to like the regular safe area. And you can see the picture here. It's like, it's definitely in that range where it's like, yeah, you could jump that, but with a broken ankle, like why risk falling like 1,000 feet down?
How about the rescuer crossing over the ladder to get to him?
Yeah. So the rescue, somehow the guy called EMS and the medical services went there to rescue him, and they brought along like a ladder, and they basically hooked the ladder up, very similar to like what you would see in like the Khumbu ice field on Mount Everest. They put, and matter of fact, that picture of him with the ladder, like I feel like he's not far enough onto the hoodoo with the ladder there, Stomp, in my view, but the rescue team member, he's roped up and he's crawling across the ladder, and he's heading out to hopefully, I guess, triage the guy. And then they were able to get the victim to crawl across the span and make his way back. And then from there, they were able to get him out safely. So
that's amazing.
Just be careful when you're going to do a jump over onto a hoodoo. Just make sure you land safely.
I stumbled upon a parkour video recently of people, parkour aficionados that were fairly skilled, clearly, but they were jumping from one of these to another, with incredible drops of 100, 200 feet on either side of these things. And just so you know, it's out there. People must do this thing on a regular basis, I guess.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
But I see those parkour people, and they have some way of like rolling right before they hit the ground, and then not dying. So I don't really know how, but
incredible.
All right, so I'm going to skip these two other national ones because we get a lot of local stuff here.
Yeah, sure.
But first story is this is a sad one. So a Dartmouth student. So this is a student that was studying in the graduate program. So authorities found the body of Kexon Kai of West Lebanon, New Hampshire. She's a graduate student in the Department of Psychological and Brain Sciences. So fishermen alerted that they had a sighting along the river, and it turned out that this was the student, 26-year-old Kexon Kai. So Kai had last been seen near Drake Lane in West Lebanon on Wednesday, according to police.
Yep.
It was unclear what direction she was traveling, but she was spotted on an e-bike, and then they were able to get some footage from a local business that showed she was traveling south on Route 110. Apparently, police got a report on Monday that her bike had been seen at a particular lot close to the river, and the woman's friends had organized a volunteer search effort around the time that she went missing. The sad part about this story is that her friends had said that she was suffering a mental health crisis and had sought some care earlier in the week. She was admitted to an on-campus medical facility, and she was there for one night, signed herself out, and then unfortunately ended up taking off, and then nobody really knows what happened, but she ended up on the river and deceased. So she had a lot of friends. They had a lot of volunteers that were out there searching, and unfortunately it did not end well. So just a reminder, if you're struggling with your mental health, certainly reach out to people to see if you can get help. It's always a tough situation, but they did do a pretty extensive search for her, including activating drones and also a helicopter rescue.
Interesting. So the article ends with a note about suicide prevention lifeline. Do they suspect that's probably the case, maybe?
Yeah, I would imagine that's the case. So we can include some links to that in the show notes. But yeah, it sounds like sad ending.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yep. Next up here, Stomp, I got this article sent to me by I think I've already got this from 5 different people. So but there's an interesting development. So there's a cold case or an unsolved mystery of a serial killer in the western New Hampshire, Vermont area. And the name of the serial killer is the Connecticut River Valley Killer. And this is a case of, I want to say there's about 5 or 6 different victims, maybe even more. And it's an interesting case. One of the people they think maybe one of the final victims is a woman that actually survived. She was in a parking lot, and I think she stopped at a vending machine to get like a Diet Coke, and the killer had reached out to or had walked up to her and asked her like a benign question, and ended up stabbing her like 27 times. And luckily she was able to get away. She was able to drive back to a friend's house. The killer had followed her and had actually circled around when she got to the friend's driveway, and luckily she had survived. She was 7 months pregnant when she was attacked. The child survived as well, but the child ended up having like mild cerebral palsy. But police basically connected this stabbing to probably a series of like I said, 6 or 7 other killings, 2 of which I think he dumped the bodies within about 500 or 600 feet of each other. So, and it's the same MO of stabbing. And they do think that there's maybe some other victims. So the timeline of this goes from like 1978 all the way up to like 1991. And there's been a couple of suspects. I think one suspect I think confessed on his deathbed, and then another suspect I think had died in a murder-suicide situation, but they don't really know for sure. But the reason I bring this up is that sources tell News 9 investigates that there's a search that was related to a series of unsolved killings in the Connecticut River Valley in 1970 to 1980s that went on in Newport, New Hampshire. So there was a search for physical evidence related to the investigation into multiple cold cases linked to the so-called Connecticut River Valley serial killer. So they executed court-authorized search warrants on Tuesday morning in the Kellyville neighborhood of Newport, New Hampshire, including at a home on Eyre Street. Now, Newport is connected to at least 2 of the murders, one of which is a 17-year-old Bernice Quartermarsh, and then the other one is 25-year-old Ellen Freed. So both of those cases were tied to Newport, and I think both of those happened in like the mid-'80s. So I think in the article it said that they searched a home on Eyre Street, and I guess they had a pretty busy police presence there. Julie Murray, the sister of Maura Murray, who went missing in New Hampshire in 2004, and there is no evidence that she's connected to this particular serial killer. She did put out a message that said her family was aware of the search and that they were in close contact with the investigators. Julie Murray has been engaging with the New Hampshire Cold Case Police Unit more heavily over the last couple of years, and has indicated that more and more that relationship has strengthened. And she's become sort of an advocate for other victims' families that are looking to sort of get some more movement on cold cases. So
interesting.
Hopefully, this is a break. And then the victim who I had talked about that had survived the serial killer, her name is Jane Borowski. She, I think, is connected as well with sort of putting more pressure on police to say, like, let's look at these cases a little bit more. So they're getting some results there. And if anybody's interested, you can check out, there's a podcast that Borowski had been involved with called Dark Valley Podcast that breaks down the details of the Connecticut River Valley cold case. And I don't know how many episodes there are, but they talk about like basically the victims. They talk about the potential suspects, and they interviewed Jane Borowski and a number of other folks. And basically this is from the same crew that was in, so Lance and Tim, it's basically the same crew that handles the Maura Murray, Missing Maura Murray podcast. So they branched out and did like a section on this. So anyway, if you're interested, I'll include this all in the show notes, and then we'll keep an eye on it. And it would be very cool if they could finally close some of these cases.
So do you think this individual, whoever they may be, is still at large, alive, or do you think because there hasn't been a new case that this is over and done with? What's your take?
I mean, typically when these cases, stop happening, either the suspect has died or they've been incarcerated. So one or two things happen. Either the person died or they're in jail for some other reason. So
Gotcha.
That would be my guess. Yeah.
And this is down by Sunapee. So this is 5 miles west of Lake Sunapee in Newport, from what I understand.
Newport, New Hampshire.
Yep. Definitely.
Which is an area that I'm not too familiar with. What's your take on that area? I don't really know much about it.
Well, we traveled down there to pick up kitten Xylo, and it blew me away. It's very rugged. The mountains just abut the lake, and it's gorgeous, but it's very sharp, rolling hills, and then you get to the bigger peaks. It's very impressive. Not familiar with Newport, though.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Wikipedia page of the Connecticut River Valley Killer, it's basically like they talk about Newport, they talk about Claremont, they talk about generally that whole area there. So the western Maine and then out into Vermont as well. So it's a small area, and I can't imagine there's that many people out there. So to be operating like that and attacking that many people must have really freaked people out back in the 80s.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on it. I thought it was interesting, and thank you all to everyone that sent the article to me. I always appreciate that. Don't ever hesitate. Send me anything you think is good. All right, Stomp. On to we've got 4 rescues locally here.
It's getting busy.
So it's getting busy for sure. So we've got a injured hiker on Sunday, May 19th, right before 2 p.m. Fish and Game was notified that a hiker was injured on the Arethusa Falls Trail. Hiker was identified as a 68-year-old man from Quebec. So remember that, Stomp, because Quebec is going to come into a lot of our stories this week. So Canada is not having a good week.
Oh, no.
So the gentleman was hiking alone. As a matter of fact, they didn't have a good week last week either. So, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Anyway, the gentleman, 68 years old, was hiking alone when he injured his hip a short distance from the falls. He was unable to bear weight on his injured leg, and that area there's got no cell connection. So
right.
Luckily, he was able to have some. What's that?
That's right. Yeah, just it's a dead zone.
Yeah, total dead zone until you get into Bartlett. It's like it's just there's nothing there. So he was about 1.5 miles from the trailhead. Some passing hikers were able to, I guess, place a call for help. So they must have went by him, and then when they got to cell connection, so members of Bartlett Jackson Ambulance Service, the fire department, Lakes Region Search and Rescue all responded, and they got out there, placed him in a litter, and carried him out to the trailhead. So he called at 2. They were able to get out to him and then get him to the trailhead by 6 p.m. And then he went to Bartlett Jackson. He went via Bartlett Jackson Ambulance to Memorial Hospital in North Conway. So, it happens.
Yeah.
He hurt his hip.
Yeah, nice job. Bartlett Fire, Lakes Region Search and Rescue.
Yes.
And
yep.
Yeah, Bartlett Jackson Ambulance too. Yep.
And then this next one here, again, this happened at 1:30 on Sunday. Fish and Game was notified of an injured hiker on the Fish and Jimmy Trail near Kinsman Pond, so way up there. So this is a 44-year-old hiker she's from Quebec, Montreal, Quebec. So she was hiking the Kinsman Ridge with 3 companions when she suffered a lower leg injury. Oh man, that is so far. 3 miles from the Lonesome Lake trailhead. The group attempted a self-rescue, but they realized that they were going to need more help. Initial assistance was provided to the hiker by the caretaker. AMC Lonesome Lake hut, and by a Good Samaritan EMT hiker. So, again, the AMC, the hut people, they're on the move helping out. So just keep that in mind the next time you complain about the huts. They're there for helping hikers as well. And then, having an EMT just stumble upon the scene is another lucky thing here. So eventually, PEMI Search and Rescue, as well as conservation officers, responded, and they were able to carry this hiker down. They reached her. So the call came in at 1:30. They reached her at 4:15. And then after ascending Lonesome Lake, rescues continued bringing equipment and a litter to carry her down. They began the descent at 5:05, and then they reached the trailhead by 7:45. The Fish and Game News report goes on to say that the victim and her hiking companions were well prepared, and they had significant experience with hiking, and that they were determined to do a self-rescue, but they pretty much knew that the situation was serious enough to call for assistance. So she must have really, really hammered her leg somehow there. So, but good for them for getting out.
Yeah, they were moving. 5:05 p.m. to 7:45, they're moving. Fish and Jimmy is
impressive.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, brutal.
Yeah,
brutal.
Fish and Jimmy is, for anybody that has hiked that, it's like, holy moly. Yeah, a lot of puds to start with, and then, wet scrambles and whatever else on the way up, which I'm assuming they're wet right now because of the weather and the melting snow.
I mean, plus you're gonna everything just sort of puddles down at the bottom of Lonesome Lake. So.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. So good for them. And then here's one in Monadnock, so injured hiker. So this was on May 19th as well. So approximately 8:20 p.m., Fish and Game were notified of an injured hiker on the Spellman Trail. And this is a 74-year-old hiker. He's coming down the Spellman Trail. That's the route I take. I usually go up that thing. I don't know how well.
Is that the most direct route down, more or less?
No, that's like the white dot. But Spellman is like the cutover to connect up to Pompelli Trail, and that's sort of how you get up to that secret cave we're not supposed to talk about.
Yep. Okay.
So, but It's steep. It's the steepest, it's a rock scramble, basically. So a 74-year-old guy coming down that at 8:20 at night, that's not a good sign.
No.
So he fell approximately 15 feet and suffered upper body injuries, which prevented him from continuing without assistance. His hiking companion was able to call for help from her cell phone, and they, conservation officers reached the pier at 10:15, provided first aid to the hiker, and then they started assisting him down the mountain. So they began at 11:30, and they were not prepared for an unexpected stay on the mountain while waiting for rescuers, and they were provided warm clothing, water, and headlamps. And eventually they reached their vehicle at Monadnock State Park at like 1:40 a.m.
Oh, damn, that's a long day.
That's a long day.
Yeah.
So, and he declined an ambulance ride. So.
Yeah, that's people's right.
Yep, sure is. And then finally, Stomp, your favorite and mine.
Falling People's Trail.
Falling People's Trail. So 7:30 on May 21st, conservation officers were made aware of a hiker on Falling Waters in Franconia. 41-year-old female had fallen and suffered a lower leg injury and could no longer continue without assistance. Pemmy Valley Search and Rescue and conservation officers responded to the trail. They got to the hiker at 9:19. She was about 2 miles from the trailhead. So due to the nature of the injuries, they put her in a litter with the carryout commencing around 10 p.m. So it takes them about 45 minutes to get her situated. And then they were able to get her out around midnight and then get her in an ambulance where she was able to get evaluated. So Fish and Game gives her a shout out, says her hiking partner were well prepared for a day hike, but she had slipped and fallen in wet, slippery terrain, which caused the injury. Happened around 6 p.m. She did attempt to ascend and then realized after about an hour and a half that this wasn't going to work. So I wonder what that, like, what goes through your head. Like, it's got to be I know me personally, Stomp, I would absolutely deny it. I'd be like, oh, I'm fine. I'm going to power through. I'm going to make it. But
yeah,
I wonder at what point do you just like, you get that feeling of despair and you're like, oh, I got to call 911.
Slow going. I mean, that's tough terrain.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah,
get down
absolutely
that with a broken leg or something.
Yeah, that's tough. So I think you just reached that realization that it's not possible. Probably going to cause more damage to your injury.
That's true. So Stomp, this wraps up another episode.
That's right. They just keep on coming.
So remember, if you're a magician and you are stuffing yourself in a box, always make sure that you have a safety partner in the room with you that can get you out.
Yeah, and if you're from Massachusetts, beware of grizzlies that may jump on you and attack you.
It's true. Yeah. So we've learned some good lessons, and we will see you next week in episode 154.
Later.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at SLASRPodcast.com. That's SLASRPodcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are?
Only one hell! Here's Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.